Hello, it's Dr. Jimmy. Who the fuck else would it be? And this is my 6th video for my History of Halloween Horror Nights 23. What evil has taken root? From 2013 at Universal Studios, Florida. And it's still the 4th of July. So let's set off some fireworks and have some wieners, yes. But I don't have to show you my shirt again. You know what it is if you watched the previous video. If you haven't, what the fuck's wrong with you? This is sequential, for God's sakes. You know, 5 comes before 6. This is part 6. It's also Bob the Cat's birthday. She's 12 years old, and she's lying here on my desk, all rolling around like a fluffy, cute baby cat, and I'm scratching her tummy. And I wish she'd come over here so you could see her, but I'm not going to pick her up because it would disturb her. And it's her birthday. I might as well let her have fun. So there we go. And now to resume Halloween Horror Nights 23. I had started the haunted houses. I had started Cabin in the Woods. And my previous video, I had only just started talking about the house itself when it ran out of time. So let's resume. So, as I said, the guest is a member of the facility. You're a new hire. You've gotten an orientation video in the queue line. You've gotten some instructions in the first scene. You get to see a zombie's head on the ground, and you walk out, and you're now in the woods. You're in the woods themselves, and you approach the legendary Cabin in the Woods. And as you walk up, the first thing you see is that first victim, of course, archetype, the whore. That is the slutty first girl to get killed for being a slut. Her head is lopped off. Her dead body is lying against a tree. She's all dead. Okay, that's one down. You go up to the cabin itself. It's just like the movie. There's the cabin. And you walk up the little steps into the cabin. To your left, on the porch, is a crow. Why is there a crow there? There's a crow in every single haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights 23. And there's been a rumor, I don't know if it's true, all the crows in all the houses were part of the original Evil Takes Root plan that got jettisoned when the whole Walking Dead everywhere came in and they had to throw that away. Some people think that maybe the idea was that they might have resurrected the icon that never was and now likely never will be, Crow. Character that is the very incarnation of Halloween itself, a man named Nathaniel Crow, who had owned the plot of land, and he rented it to Jack the Clown for the Carnival of Carnage in 2007. And apparently, one of the original ideas for 2008 was that Crow would be this icon for that year. Then they threw it out and did The Wicked Queen, then they threw that out and did Bloody Mary. And the idea was they were going to resurrect him and bring him back for the icon in 2013. Not telling us about it because they had him in reserve. Michael Aiello created Crow in a treatment which he read to us later, and I think in 2014, when it was clear they would never use Crow, and so he just told us all about him. And basically, after the Carnival of Carnage was over, Jack and the other icons showed up, and somehow they did the voodoo on him, and he changed. All the roots came up from the earth and the blood-soaked ground and transformed his body. Birds and crows came and pecked all the flesh off of his body, leaving only his bones. And then the roots and other stark earth of Halloween molded up and created new flesh, hideous flesh. He became a living scarecrow with a pumpkin head, a mouth gaping open down to his chest, no eyes because the crows had eaten it, and a candle was placed inside his skull, lit on fire, and the fire burns out from his eyes and his mouth like a human jack-o'-lantern head. Horrible pumpkin creature known only as Crow, the living personification of Halloween. A great icon idea. And that might have been the evil that took root in 2013 if they had been able to do it that way. That's just a theory. We don't know if it was Crow to be used in 2013. Some think he was going to be used in 2014, but whatever the reason, they didn't use him. But there were still crows in every single one of the haunted houses, And there were the next year as well, at least most of them, in the scare zones. In fact, crows became a bit of a running gag. They keep popping up here and there. But it was like Ryan the bird called all his friends over, and they were all sitting all over. So it became a bit of a fun game to spot the ravens or crows in every single house. And Cabin in the Woods, it was right there on the porch of the cabin as you went into the little cabin. So you're in the cabin, it's just like in the movie. Up on the wall is a moose. I dare you to make out with that moose. Yeah, kiss that moose. Get French it. Tongue. It's not a moose at all, of course. It's a wolf. Arr, arr. But that's what the dude said in the movie. He called it a moose for some reason because he was really high. And then it's there, and you see one of the victims. I think it's the scholar. He's dead on the couch, or he calls for help. He's not quite dead yet, but he will be. And one of the zombie redneck family, I think it's the mum, is in that scene and attacks you and everything. And then you go through the various rooms of the cabin, down a hallway. Another one, I think it's the brother or the father, comes at you with an axe. Then you get into a bedroom, and the doctor is in the bedroom on the bed of the redneck zombie family, but at the same time on the wall is that nifty painting from the movie of the slaughtered lambs being torn apart by wolves, actual lambs in this case, a warning about what was going to happen, of course. And just like in the movie, it's part of it hides a secret window, and it goes transparent, and you can see the other guy on the other side in the other room, with his axe coming after you again. Then you leave that bedroom and go down into the cellar, and again you've got stuff happening from above. Another one of the redneck family comes after you, I think the dad here, and you see evidence of their slaughtering and killing all around you. And then it's the room full of stuff, all that cursed stuff. And if you play with the wrong object, of course, something will come after you. Of course, it's too late. The zombie redneck family is here. But there's a little dollhouse, little toys, little puzzle sphere, the conch shell. All that stuff is in the room, and you can see it. I think they throw in a few props from previous horror nights as inside jokes, like, the Billy doll from Scream. Not Scream, the Billy doll from Dead Silence is in there. A couple of other things might be in there, but you go through that and then of course you're out of the cabin as you go down into the facility itself, and you're in the elevator room. And so on each side of you are containment cells, all sorts of cells, just like in the movie, containing various creatures that might attack you. To your left is the little ballerina. Yes, little ballerina, like on a music box. In fact, a music box with a ballerina was what, if you played with that and turned the key and listened to the music, she would have come after you instead of the zombie redneck family. But in this case, she's right there in the glass cell, and she spins around, and her face, of course, isn't a pretty little girl's human face, but a gaping maw like a lamprey full of teeth. Quite hideous. And she was played by in one of the casts, at least, by none other than delightful little scare actress Beth Wicker, who, of course, was Rosie the Fox Girl the previous year. And later at the event, she'd take a break from her role in the cabin to return as Rosie later on in the last weeks of the event for something special, which we'll talk about later, much later. So after that, on the other side, you have the demon. I don't remember his name. It was something like Loquatus. Now, that was the name of the Borg when Captain Picard turned into a Borg, but it sounded like that. Something like Necrotus or some kind of weird name. But he's a demon of pain, Lord of Pain. Clearly an homage, if you want to be fancy, or a rip-off, if you don't, of the Pinhead Cenobite. He had like blades in his face and stuff. He was basically a Cenobite-like character who would come to torture you in ecstasy of pain and pleasure, because, the angels to some, devils to other, the whole Hellraiser shtick. That's what he is, basically, that sort of creature. And so he was on the other side, and I think in his case he could come out of his cell and get you if you weren't expecting it. You didn't realize he had an exit. You just thought he was glassed off, but he wasn't. Then the next room is the elevator shaft itself. So you have all sorts of elevators, this big wide room, and there's carnage all around you, dead bodies lying around from various facility workers who've already been slaughtered. And because the purge button has been hit, folks, and now they're out and about. And some of the elevators open and things can come out at you, including an evil clown. Not Jack. No, this was the evil clown from the movie. Not Pennywise, the one from Cabin in the Woods, who was an evil clown. He comes out after you, laughing maniacally. Other zombies are in the room as well, and other creatures snapping at your ankles. One is on the floor as you walk by. Then you go into the room with the television screens and the whiteboard with all the lovely monsters listed that people are taking bets on, including Kevin. Who was Kevin? Someone keeps sending me texts. Who is that? Who is that? Oh, it's about the, it's Wimbledon. Apparently, between the match with Andy Murray and Kyrgios going on right now. I have a Wimbledon app, and so when anything happens, it jumps up on my phone. It's a bit of a bother sometimes. Enough of that. Continuing, in that scene, as I said, there was an inside joke, and one of the teams betting was art and design. Okay, Kevin apparently is sort of a serial killer, or someone who looks normal but is quite evil. Although it's really, we don't know who Kevin really is. It's an inside joke, probably reference to the fellow who wrote a lot of horror movies in the 90s. I don't remember his last name now for some reason. Brain not working, sorry, but his first name was Kevin. There might be an inside joke about that. But going through that room, there was the Merman, which was an animatronic type of thing. Not very good, sadly. Again, for opening weekend, nothing was there. It was just an empty space where something was supposed to be. And when they finally got the Merman in, because it was sent to them, made elsewhere, and then sent to Universal, and they put it in, it really just sat there sort of flipping its tail a little bit nonchalantly, and blowhole going off a little bit, but not anywhere near as active or scary as it should have been. Bit disappointing of the Merman. But that wasn't the biggest disappointment. We thought the unicorn would be part of the house. They said the unicorn would be part of the house when it was first announced, because this was the first house announced, remember? And indeed they planned for some sort of unicorn puppet or something to show up in the house, you know, rearing and kicking its hooves maybe, with the, you know, like the puppets of Werewolf in later years. But apparently that old dreadful demon of darkness known as "we don't have any money left in our budget" took place, and they had to leave the unicorn out. In fact, the whole scene featuring the unicorn was left out, apparently, after that. And that's just too bad. But the only thing they could do was to have a unicorn in the house at all, was to have the scenes from the movie where the unicorn impales one of the facility workers with this, was shown up on the screens behind the control panel with the purge button. Yes, so you got to see the unicorn in action on video screens. But that was all. Then the next couple of scenes, there was a room where the doctors from the movie, these are evil, psychotic, mad scientists, sort of zombified, their faces are all distorted and everything, like Dr. Giggles or somebody, doing all sorts of unnecessary surgery on some poor victim. Ooh, let's just cut him open for fun and play with his organs. That sort of thing was going on in the next room. And then you're in the break room with all the vending machines, and there's tentacles coming down from the ceiling, because something like Cthulhu or a Kraken must be up there in the ceiling, and there's just tentacles flying around. Quite nice. And then the last scene of the house was another walk through cells, containment cells, some of which are open, of course, and things can come out at you. And there are all sorts of creatures, like some sort of alien warrior and a great big, I think it was a prop from The Thing, big, horrible, monstrous alien beast in another one. Some creepy doll-faced killers, like from The Strangers, in another one. A little floaty Japanese girl, ghost-type creature in another one. And you go through that gauntlet, and you're out. But before you go out, if you were smart, you're locked up, because you had containment cells on 2 levels, and the upper cells they didn't have any scare actors, but they had, you know, mannequins and statuary of different monsters. But the last ones on the end, to the right and the left, were a special cameo Easter egg for Horror Night fans, because on the way out of the last scene, if you looked up to your left, you would see in the containment cell above Jack the Clown himself with his ringmaster's jacket on. Ha ha, Jack. A static figure though, not an actual scare actor, but a cameo appearance of Jack on the right. Harder to see because there was some, you know, blood and stuff all over the side of the containment cell, but if you look carefully you could see the figure of Albert Kane, the caretaker. So there was an iconic presence at the event that year after all, with a little cameo appearance of Jack and Albert there at the end of Cabin in the Woods. Then you exit the house, and of course you took your Legendary Truth card and you scanned it on the way out with the nifty Legendary Truth symbol at the end of the house. Now, yes, they were doing that year again, but unlike Horror on Earth, it was Legendary Truth this time, so you scan your card if you're playing the game. So, that was the first house, Cabin in the Woods. Finally got through it. Now I'm at the 6th part. And, of course, that year, as I have done for many years, I was making up cocktails for all the houses. And at that time I would go to Finnegan's, and I would have the lovely bartenders at Finnegan's follow my instructions and make a cocktail. And so, let me find it here on my phone. Alright, this would be House Cocktails for Halloween Horror Nights 23. Very good. And the first one, for Cabin in the Woods, it said a stronger version of a cocktail called a unicorn, which contained Bailey's, Kahlua, Midori, Cointreau, and brandy. So I took a recipe for a cocktail actually called a unicorn to commemorate the unicorn that was supposed to be in the house, and made the cocktail called the unicorn, but it was a stronger version, therefore a little more potent. And this is what it looked like, served straight up in a martini glass. I think there might have been a cherry in there, yes. So it's white and creamy looking, and there's a cherry there. You might not see it very well. There's a stem sticking out in the end. If you look really carefully, you might see the little bit of cherry at the bottom of the glass. It's hard to see. But that was the cocktail. Very sweet, very lovely, quite mythical, and representing the unicorn that was supposed to be for Cabin in the Woods. And that was the first house cocktail in 2013. Alright, now we can continue with the next haunted house. This haunted house was another intellectual property house, and it was sharing Soundstage 21 with Cabin in the Woods, thus in Soundstage 21B. It was an intellectual property, but it was not a motion picture. It was not a television program. It wasn't a magician's act. It wasn't a musical recording. No. This was the first time they really did a video game house. Now, yes, they did Silent Hill in 2012, but Silent Hill was as much based on the movies as it was the video games. This one was just based on the video game and not based on movie adaptations of that video game. The house was Resident Evil, Escape from Raccoon City, and it was based mainly on Resident Evils 2 and 3, the video games, particularly 3, which featured, of course, the sinister beast called Nemesis, who was a big player in the house. So, the idea behind this house was to make it as much like the video game as possible. Not using anything from the movies, none of that Alice character from the movie, she's not involved at all, but the characters from the video games, you know, like Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine and the other Resident Evil characters, and trying to recreate the actual screens and scenes from the video game itself, and even throwing in video game stuff like save points and those little power-up those power-up places where, and in Resident Evil they're like little herbs, green, red, yellow herbs, blue herbs. Those were in the house, and even a save. What do you call it? A pause button scene where the game is paused while you stop to go to the bathroom or get a beer from the whatever, or if you're playing video, I suppose Mountain Dew from the kitchen before you come back and resume your game, and an end screen at the end. So you had all these sorts of video game things put into the house, and as a result the house was a bit cartoonish, and some people thought it was stupid and not scary. But I personally realized this is one of the comedy houses this year. Every year they usually have a more light-hearted comedy house. It's usually a 3D house. The 3D house that year was meant to be more of a scary house. This was the light comedy house. This was the tongue-in-cheek horror house. You didn't really expect it to because it's Resident Evil, but if you took it that way, you could enjoy the house a lot more. And I try to tell people, don't take it seriously. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Enjoy it for what it is. And on that way, I really like the house a lot more than some of the others did. But again, we'll have to go to part 7.